Good evening and Happy New Year to everyone for your attendance. Welcome to the Village of Yellow Springs Council meeting for January 6th, 2025. Judy, if you could call the roll.
All right, Stokes.
I'm here.
DeVore Leonard.
Here.
Brown. Here. Ouch.
Here.
Gustafson. Here. Also present is Solicitor Amy Blankenship.
And Village Manager Johnny Bird.
Is Johnny on here?
Yep.
Johnny on.
Yep, he is here. He sort of looks like Ben with the hand floating around.
Sorry,
But,
Patrick. Sorry.
all right, so we're all here. Did Carmen say she was present?
Yes, I'm here.
Okay. All right, so the chair will entertain a motion to move into executive session to consider employment for
For the purpose of the evaluation and compensation of employees, clerk, and village manager.
That is right. Can I get a motion and a second?
So moved. Second. Right, Stokes.
Yes.
DeVore Leonard.
Yes.
Brown. Yes. Ouch.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Right, you guys are officially roll called into executive session. You can join the other session.
All right, does everyone have? Once again, welcome to everyone to the January 6th, 2025 regular meeting of Village Council. The chair will entertain a motion to leave executive session. A motion and a second, please.
Second?
Yeah, dog bark. Judy, you want to do the roll call, please?
Sure. Stokes.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, here. Can we mute everybody? Yeah.
Brown.
Yes.
Ouch.
Yes.
Gustafson.
Yes.
Thank you.
Whoever's got admin, if you could maybe mute everyone and everyone else who's on the call, if you're not actively engaged with the meeting, please mute yourself. All righty. And so I do not have an agenda in front of me, but do we have any announcements?
Yeah, I'll start out with you. So first of all, I wanted to wish everyone a Happy New Year. And of course, the ball drop was amazing, as always. And really want to thank our village team and the Miami Township crew for keeping us all safe. Also wanted to highlight that the next, well, it'll be, I guess, Monday the 20th, is Martin Luther King Jr. Day. So the next regular council meeting will be on the 21st of January. One other thing I just wanted to reference that was in the packet was the Miami Valley Regional Planning Commission's sort of return on investment with our annual dues, which are now $1,959. And they listed the return that we get on that investment, and I wanted to highlight some of the things that are reflected in that, including the walking audit we recently did to update our active transportation plan, the climate change planning that Meg and Johnny are working with the consultant from NDRPC on. We've gotten several grants this past year for our involvement in the Age-Friendly Community Initiative, and several other things, but really great organization to be a part of, and it also helps us access those bigger dollars, like what led to the Dayton Street project. There was a visit recently, end of December, to Dayton, Kentucky, where they have what is called a traffic garden. I know several people from the Active Transportation Committee went, and I just wanted to kind of highlight that because it's an initiative that I think could happen here. Basically, the concept is like a safety town to teach the youth more about walking and biking safety. And last thing, I wanted to acknowledge, we lost a great community member, a really beautiful person and very wise, Raymond Ruka, at the end of last year. And I highlight that because he brought some really interesting restorative justice programming to council and to the team. And sad that he has passed, but he's left behind a really important legacy. All right.
Yeah, Brian, thanks for that about Raymond. I forgot to say something about that myself. I appreciate that. And for those who don't know, Raymond Ruka was the spouse of Jenny Copperthwaite Ruka, formerly of Little Arthur. So we certainly share our condolences with the family, with the Copperthwaite Ruka family. And just one question, Brian, just about the dues to Miami Valley Regional Planning. Is there a formula for how that dollar amount is put together, or is that a standard fee for all?
No, it is a formula based on population. Mm-hmm. So I think for this year, they calculated 3,671 residents. So it's a percentage tied to that. And these are the same annual dues as last year. That has not increased.
Okay. Yeah, duly noted, good to know. And the fact that it's the same as last year, I care less about how it was configured. But I just never knew what the figure was. I knew I was involved with making sure the check got delivered last year.
Yeah, so I guess it roughly pans out to like 50 cents a head to a person.
I feel special knowing that. All right, thank you. All righty. Again, thanks for that. Any other announcements? All right, seeing none, we're going on to the consent agenda. And on the consent agenda, we have the minutes of the December.
Are we doing an agenda review?
That's next.
Okay, sorry.
Yep.
I don't have it in front of me either. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. I guessed on the announcement. So
Yeah.
it's okay. So yeah, it's amazing how often you see these things you just don't have all together by heart. So we're looking at the consent agenda, and what we have on the consent agenda is the minutes from the December 16th, 2024 regular meeting. Can I get a motion in a second?
So
Second.
All right, a bunch of people weighed in on that. All those in favor of approving those minutes, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, thank you very much. That motion has passed. Now, Brian and others, we're at review of the agenda. This is where we have an opportunity to take a look at the items on the agenda, make proposals of adding or removing various things. Any comments regarding the review of the agenda?
Yeah, sorry to jump the gun, but Carmen and I would like to nominate an environmental commission member. So it'd be great if we could have just a couple minutes in new business to do that.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Anyone else? All right. Thank you. So moving on, petitions and communications. Gavin, if you would, please.
Yeah, so the clerk will receive and file from the council clerk the CPIM certification for 2025, Brian Hausch clarifications of comments, and then the previously mentioned MVRPC member services information.
All right. Thank you, Gavin. Appreciate that. excuse me, sorry, we are to public hearings and legislation. We have no second readings of ordinances or any other emergency readings. So all items will, by definition, if you would, be read by title only. And having said that, Judy, if you could read by title only the first reading of ordinance 2025-01.
This is repealing and replacing Chapter 1256 overlay districts of the Yellowstone Cemetery.
All right, can I get a motion and a second, please?
So moved. Second.
Yeah, we're experiencing the online dilemma. So, Meg or Johnny, and Meg, well, whoever does, you've done the memo, we appreciate that, but you certainly can feel free to cover 2025-2 and 2025-3 with these comments if you like.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, this is Meg Leatherman. This is the first reading for a couple of different ordinances you'll see on the agenda because the code and law requires that they be presented that way. But the overall intent and I guess the reason why they're here is mainly for one main reason, which I'll summarize. So, and then if we want to get more into the details, we can. But this will be coming back for the second reading for all of those ordinances, and that's when the public hearing will be. So I was just planning on giving kind of an overview of it, and then if you have questions, then I could potentially look into it and bring back some of the answers to the next meeting at the public hearing. So when we were evaluating the zoning code for potential sites to develop affordable housing, it was brought to our attention that the Gateway Overlay Zone would limit the total number of potential dwelling units that could be constructed and also limit other forms of development in the Gateway Overlay Zone. So Village Council asked us to look into that, and I did a pretty in-depth analysis along with Amy and Judy of what the standards were, each basically line by line, point by point, evaluated them, and put a summary of that in the memo that I gave to council. A lot of the standards and criteria in the overlay zone are replicated in other parts of the code, and my recommendation is mainly just to repeal it and then add back one standard that I think is not replicated in other portions of the code, but believe would be good to keep in place for safety reasons. So mainly, I think the main limiting factor in the Gateway Overlay Zone is the limit of height of 30 feet or 2 stories. And so if we remove the Gateway Overlay Zone, and just to note that in the memo that I prepared, there's a map of it. It's actually in 3 different parts of town, and it's basically just along certain portions of roadway, property that has frontage along certain segments of Zing and Dayton Street. And so if we remove that overlay zone, basically it goes away, and the underlying zoning is still in place. The underlying zoning height restrictions would apply and take over that limiting 30-foot standard. And so in my memo, I did an analysis of what the different zones then would be in place if that gateway was removed, and what the zone height limits would be with that removed. So it really, I think the tallest one is in the B2 zone, so 45 feet, and that's just a small section on the south of town near where the car wash is down there. That's a little B2 zone. If new development would occur, they would have the ability to construct at 45 feet there. A majority of the zoning, the zones that will remain in place are RC along Dayton Street, and most of that is RC and some I1 and I2. So removing the gateway overlay zone will again default to the zoning that's in place underneath, and the general standards would become applicable. And I did do a little bit of research into the history of it. The gateway overlay zone was added through a major rewrite in 2013 when we did a complete overhaul of our zoning code. And I reached out to Ted Donnell. He's a former commission member who led the charge of adding this in. And it was clear, it appeared this way, that it was kind of just not really fully realized and fleshed out, and some things were missing, and he confirmed that actually was the case, so that was nice to hear, because it really didn't have a lot to it. It was meant to potentially later on be more fully fleshed out with more design criteria of what structure potentially would look like if they were to be developed in those areas. And that never happened, so that's kind of the history of it. So the one standard that I'm suggesting that we add back is through the driveway section of our code, and it's basically on arterial streets, we'll limit the number of driveways so they're more spaced apart. So that just kind of limits the amount of potential accidents on arterial streets. So those, again, Xenia and Dayton Street would be the main streets that it would be limited on. And then I guess, trying to think of some of the other highlights of it. Oh, then there was a separate piece that I'm recommending we take at the same time, with the same intent or spirit of the change of being trying to remove extra barriers to development in housing specifically, and it's for the site plan section of the code. It's kind of embedded in there deep, where a lot of people don't even notice that it's there, but right now permitted uses that are over 5,000 square feet in size require a planning commission public hearing, and I'm recommending that we remove that they still have to do a site plan application, but it would just be reviewed by me at the staff level. And if I think that it needs to go to the planning commission, I can still have it go to the planning commission at a public hearing, but it'll just expedite the review time and potentially like the perception, a lot of people have perception of public hearing kind of limiting them, and they're a little bit more timid to come forward with an application if they think it's going to go to public hearing. So since it's a permitted outright use, and that's just generally people think it's permitted outright use, I'm not going to have to go to public hearing, but in our code it's right now written that's not the case. So conditional uses, still nothing's changing with that. The conditional uses still has to go to planning commission. It's just a few that might come forward that are 5,000 square feet or more could potentially apply just to me, and if I think it needs to go to council or planning commission, then it would. So I think that's a pretty high-level overview, and feel free to look through my memo. It has more of the details of what the underlying zoning standards would be if it's removed, and some of the standards that are replicated in other portions of the code. I highlight some of those in the memo as well. That's all I have.
Sorry, I was muted. I said, oh my, not.
Are you doing?
But just to reiterate, Meg, a couple of things that you said, just in general, that 2501 is practically a wholesale repealing, but yet still replacing the overlay district as it appears today. And because you're pulling out some good stuff as well, 2502, if I'm correct, characterizing this properly, you're pulling out a bunch in 2501, putting back some critical pieces in 2502, and then 2023 is talking about how some of those changes would be applied going forward.
Kind of 2020, I mean the number 3, 2503 is more of just the piece about allowing all permitted uses to be reviewed by me versus some other board of the planning commission for public hearing.
Okay, good. All right, this is first reading, but give you a brief moment if council has any questions before we put this first reading to vote. Actually, we're very done with it. It's first reading. Any questions or comments? All right. Well, thank you very much, Meg, for that. And so, Judy, if you could read by title only, ordinance 2025-02.
This is repealing and replacing section 1260.03 driveway standards zone code.
Can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second?
Thank you very much. We touched on this, Nag, that this is, the driveway portion. So I don't know that we need to go over any major detail with that, because we did touch on it earlier.
I guess the other little piece in this one is that I'm changing the title. I mean, if you're looking at the text, the strikeout underline is also attached, and it's in the memo as well. The actual, what will actually change in the code with the strikeout as what we're removing, and underlining caps is what we're adding. I did kind of refine one of the titles, just to be clear as to what's inside of that section, because it was kind of some of that was hidden, like outdoor storage and vehicles. But that was just like an administrative cleanup item. So basically everything else, there's nothing else in this section besides adding a standard that was only applicable in the gateway to be applicable to all zones where we limit the number of driveways on arterials.
Okay, excellent. Thank you for that clarification. All right, council, anything else from council on this? All right, well, we will see this again at our next meeting. And Judy, if you can read by title only, ordinance 2025-03.
This is repealing and replacing section 1268.02, applicability of the Yellow Spring zoning code to remove the requirement of site plan review for permitted uses.
Can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
So moved. Second.
All right, thank you. Mayor, anything to add here?
No, I think this is just, it makes it a little bit clearer and so gives staff a little bit more autonomy in reviewing some of the site plan applications, but then I still have the ability to take it to a public hearing if I feel like it's needed. So I like that.
And I like it too. Thank you. All right, council, before we move on, anything here? All right, well, thank you very much. Again, we will see these first three ordinances again in our next meeting. Look forward to doing a deeper dive as needed and doing the public hearing for those ordinances as well. So Judy, if you could read by title only, Resolution 2025-01.
This is authorizing the sale during calendar year 2025 of municipally owned personal property which is not needed for public use, or which is obsolete or unfit for use, for which it was acquired by internet auction pursuant to Ohio Revised Code Section 721.15E.
All right, can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Second.
All right, thank you. Johnny, I'm gonna guess this is you?
This is me. This is for gov deals. This is where we take old trucks out of service or larger equipment that could be worth more than $1,000 and put it on the gov deals to get rid of unused or not needed surplus. Normally, if we're putting it on there, it ain't worth anything.
And Johnny, this is pretty standard fare. We do this every year?
We have not done it in a couple of years. We will have a couple of dump trucks getting ready to go on it this year.
Okay, Judy, what was that? I'm sorry.
We do it every year.
Okay.
We pass it every year.
Yeah, but it's,
May not have auction been got for you, but we pass it every year.
gotcha. So we trust that, we have good equipment, we keep our good equipment in good working order, but when something is obsolete beyond reparable use, we, one man's junk becomes someone else's treasure. All right, well, gov deals is a pretty good method of doing that. And we don't care, Johnny, I'm asking the question, do you care in terms of, where you in your mind would say there's a certain value of something? Do you know?
It's per ordinance. And you Blankenship can speak to that, but it's anything valued over $1,000.
Well, good, that's a good, it's good to know that. I wasn't sure if I knew that, but it's good that there's some rationale for what goes on in this and what doesn't. Okay, Anything else from council on this resolution? All right, hearing none. All those in favor of approving this resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, that motion has passed. Judy, if you could, please read by title only, Resolution 2025-02.
This is approving a salary adjustment for Johnny R. Burns for continued service as village manager.
Can I get a motion in a second?
So moved.
Second.
All right, Trish, I'm gonna ask you to introduce the topic here.
Sure. So we actually individually prepared evaluations for Johnny's position and looked at the cumulative numbers. We are going to be recommending a salary increase shortly and go through the process for our meeting. But we also wanted to mention that we're looking at compensation as a whole for 2025, and Johnny is preparing a document for council that he is planning to submit to us in February that will basically have his year in review, and we'd like to take a look at that along with goals, our combined goals and objectives for that position, and potentially tie compensation to what we determined from the combination of those two items.
Right. Sounds good. Other council members, feel free to weigh in, please.
Yeah, I think I want to thank Trish for putting together the evaluation forms, and we had a good conversation, although we didn't have a lot of time in our executive session, but certainly I will say, and I know I have heard it expressed by everyone that a lot of great things happening in the village. Johnny really came in and got up to speed quickly. I guess he was already kind of up to speed. And I've personally been really happy to see how much we're getting accomplished and how Johnny has elevated staff to really empower them to support the village and the community. And yeah, just a lot of great skills and insights that Johnny brings to the position, and I appreciate your leadership.
Excellent, excellent. Carmen and or Gavin. It's okay. If you, I will certainly echo everything that's been said, that Trish said about the process, excuse me, and what Brian said about our appreciation, Johnny, for the work you've done. There is going to be further conversations, as Trish alluded to. Johnny, there's your assessment of the year that you've had, and we will then, in those further conversations, talk about our appreciation of that and any areas of concern that we might have, and then we will again have a full-throated conversation to be able to reconcile, if you will, all those things, so that we're all on the same page. We have talked enough in executive session to know what the parameters are that we would use to consider a compensation amount or percentage, if you will. So I will open the floor to council for anyone willing to make a proposal in terms of a motion for the increase to compensation for those managers.
Can I just ask for a point of clarification?
Yes, you may.
So are you indicating then that the council wants to pass this initial resolution and then contemplate another resolution after you've received more material, have another discussion?
Another resolution is a potential. That's not the plan necessarily. It could be, I suspect that I and my colleagues will deliberate momentarily over a percentage amount that we think is fair, given what we all know and appreciate about the work that Johnny's done for this past year. So if there is something that comes out of those discussions, Judy, yes, we would consider, wow, Johnny, I didn't know he walked on water, but he does. Well, that's an additional percentage point. So that's sort of the way we go. But I presume that what we offer as a proposal and then vote on tonight would take into account our general understanding of the way the performance has presented itself over the past year. And if, again, there's something markedly different, then we will make adjustments as needed. Okay? Did I represent everyone's understanding with that comment? All right. So the chair will entertain a motion of a percentage. So let me talk about real quickly the resolution. The resolution has in it a proposal for an increase to the village manager's compensation, but right now that is a blank, it's actually an X on the current draft, current resolution. So what we would be asking for as a motion, a proposal of what percentage increase we will be filling that X, replacing that X with. So, is there a motion and a second? I therefore will move that we offer village manager Johnny Burns, according to this resolution, an increase of 3.5% on his annual salary, making that commensurate, if you would, with the across-the-board percentage that we approve for the rest of the village employees. So again, my motion is 3.5%. Is there a second?
Second.
All right, is there discussion? I tried to briefly characterize the approach that we would take going forward with percentage, and then discussing a little later our assessment of Johnny, and then Johnny's assessment of himself, and from a equity perspective, I felt 3.5 is a good place to be, given that that is what we have offered to every other rank and file, certain classified employees across the village. And I would suspect, Johnny, I'm going to speak for you. You can correct me if I'm wrong, but I would suspect that you're comfortable getting a percentage increase that's at least in the neighborhood of what the rest of the team has received. So from, again, I talked about fairness, just equity, that's what we go with. Any other commentary before we vote? We did have a motion, and I hope we did have a second. Yes, Brian?
Yeah, just one thing, just to, because I think it's been laid out, what the next steps are, but I know that all council members are looking forward to reviewing our feedback with Johnny and working together to set some goals for 2025. I think Johnny's got a pretty good idea of that in his mind, and that will be an important, robust conversation.
Yeah, thank you for that, Brian. And I will say, I will reiterate what we said in the last meeting. We know that we would have preferred to have begun these conversations sooner rather than later. I will take responsibility for us missing that mark from a timing perspective. The pressure, if you will, is that we want to be compliant with our finance director's assessment, if you would, that we don't want to get very far into this fiscal year, which, began a few days ago, before we make these changes, because we want to avoid making retroactive pay increases. And so since the compensation that we're considering, the change is for the fiscal year 25, which has just begun, then therefore the change that we're proposing will take effect in that first payroll of this fiscal/calendar year, and we're not having to go back and retroactively pay our direct reports after the year has begun. Again, because of guidance that we've gotten from our finance director, we want to try to stay consistent in that regard. And so we acknowledge that some of this is happening sort of in a less than ideal order, but I think we have enough information and enough appreciation for all of what Johnny has done and the compensation landscape, if you will, across the village, that we felt comfortable with the current proposal on the table. And as I said earlier, when we get to these conversations, if there's something that really strongly suggests making the change, we would make the change, and I presume that change would be up. I don't think there's anything you can see where we would reduce the number to 3.5. I think we sort of anecdotally, if you will, agree that 3.5, given that's what we gave everyone else, is the floor, if you will. But I know that Johnny, being the gracious leader that he is, that I would imagine that he'd be comfortable coming in at the same rate that we gave to the rank and file employees in the village. All right, any other discussion before we put this to the vote? All right, all in favor? Wait. I guess I'm hearing echo.
This is a vote on the motion for 3.5%.
Yes. Okay. So thank you, Judy. So that's going to be 2 votes then. One for that. Right. All right. So all those in favor of making the percentage increase in the resolution for the Dothan County Johnny Burns 3.5%, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? Same sign. All right, hearing none, that motion is passed. So the resolution has now been modified. Resolution number 2025-2 has been modified to approve a salary adjustment for Johnny Burns and to continue his service as village manager with a 3.5% increase for this year. All in favor of passing that resolution, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, that motion is passed. Thank you very much for your participation, and congratulations, Johnny, for the 3.5% increase. Judy, if you could, please, now read by title only, Resolution 2025-03.
There will be a salary adjustment for Judy Glenn Fitner for continued service as the clerk of council.
All right, can I get a motion in a second?
So moved. Second.
All right, we have a bunch of moves and a bunch of seconds. Discussion. Trish, I'll ask you to open it up again, please.
So again, we collectively reviewed Judy, and we have each individual idea of an amount that we're going to vote on here momentarily. We appreciate everything you've done, and we do have, because of the 11th hour that we're doing this, we do have goals and objectives that we're going to be reviewing. And we are going to look at the total compensation package for the year 20 to 25.
All right, thank you for that, Trish. Brian, you're the senior diplomat. You've done this more than the rest of us have. Can you please, and I'm looking across to see who else is on the call from village staff that can help us talk about this, and Johnny, you being one, and anyone else from staff that can help us get a good understanding of how we should consider and apply this, and Fletcher, that was on Fino as well, how we apply or how we move forward with the longevity.
We don't talk about it as how we move forward with that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I mean, that is a, go ahead, if you want to discuss it.
No, we want to get a good understanding of it because none of us really feel strongly comfortable about what to do with it.
Kevin, I can tell you this, longevity never plays a part in anything in compensation. It is actually an incentive for employees to stay, and the longer they stay, the better the compensation for that period is. It is literally not even worth the paper it's written on. The majority of them, some of them even do it as like an end of the year thing, because it's like $200. So, it's not very much.
So is it like a bonus or an increase to compensation?
I know that other villages use it as like a year-to-end bonus for holidays and stuff like that. It's literally, I think it was 8 cents on the hour if you've been here 10 years. Yeah, and maybe if you've been here 15, and maybe 12 cents on the hour. That's
Alrighty, that's a different slant than I started this meeting with. But it's still, and I will say this, we've always addressed it or offered it at this juncture as part of the evaluation process.
And it's been a travesty, actually. I've gotten shafted several times and had to redo my resolution because there was so much misunderstanding about what that thing meant. It's just a part of my contract. It's like pulling in a part of somebody's contract and saying, well, geez, since your contract allows you to get this, we're actually going to give you less over here. And it's so incredibly insignificant as to be completely insignificant. I just, every time it gets brought in, I think, you know what, take it out of my contract. I'm tired of being penalized for this tiny little thing that I have in my contract. That's how I feel.
Is it 10% of salary? Is it a percentage, is it a policy? So it's a policy for everybody, but it's in your contract? No?
It's my contract because other contract employees don't necessarily get longevity. For some reason, I do. So it comes up,
Okay.
and for no one else.
Okay.
And it is certainly not a consideration for anyone else who works at the village because they get their step increases, they get their wage adjustments, and longevity is just part of their package. So I don't ever understand why it's discussed separately for me.
Well, I will say for myself, separately for you, because I'm responsible to 2 people, you and Johnny, and you're the only one that gets the longevity. And that's just been my limited experience with it. Johnny, do a lot of your team members, what do you say, they do get longevity? Everybody get something?
everybody that has been here over 6 years gets longevity. The first year is 1%. Every year after that is 0.04%. Not 1.04, it's 0.04. And .04 every year after 6 years.
Every year forever after the 6th.
Every year up to 20.
Oh, up to
20
20.
stops. One again, just figure you handy.
So we don't have to make you stay.
They're already gone.
Oh my goodness. All right, so any council member who has a firm enough grasp of that conversation, I would ask you to make a motion.
You're looking for us a firm grasp.
Yeah, that was, I probably did myself an injustice. Well, and I try to not make first motions. So I will remove that requirement of having a firm grasp. Anyone who thinks they have an idea of a way forward, I would ask for a proposal in the way of a motion. And Johnny, I appreciate that I'm not able to try to do the math to see how that percentage should work out, unless someone else knows what it should be based on the formulated information that Johnny shared. Are we working on it?
I don't think it should be considered in any way, so I don't know why we would be calculating it.
Really? So Judy, are you saying you think you shouldn't get it?
You don't have to vote on it, it's in my contract. I mean, you should just decide, I get a cost of living increase or I don't, just, please.
That, I see what you're saying. So that's helpful, but I wish I had that information. We did talk about the fact that there was a lot of information that we wish we had at this point. And I think maybe the finance committee made some requests and they haven't gotten that information yet. Yeah, go
Can I
ahead.
explain one thing? And Judy's actually kind of right, because even cost of living for everybody else, I mean, we have like 10 other employees that have this longevity, and that was never figured into their raise or any of their compensation. It is cost of living, and that they are up for merit, that's a different thing. So longevity is not to be figured into pay raises and everything else. That is further handled. So therefore, I mean, we didn't go back and say, well, they've got longevity, we're only going to give them 2.3% because they got 0.04% of longevity.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, I don't think that's happening in this instance. I think that just generally, like for me, I was trying to have just a general understanding of it. That's not, I don't even know what that calculates out to. So, I know that, like I said, we are looking at compensation as a whole in 2025. And so with that said, I will make a motion to award Judy 3.5% for the fiscal year 2025.
Second?
All right, we got a motion and a second. Is there further discussion? All right, no further discussion? So the first vote will,
Oh, yeah, not on that, sorry.
okay. So first vote would be therefore to consider the 3.5 for the replacement of the X on the resolution. All those in favor of doing so, please indicate by saying aye. Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. Hearing no opposition, the X in the draft resolution has been replaced by a 3.5% number. Now we are going to vote for the resolution, which has that percentage called out. All those,
Well, before we call the vote, I did want to highlight again, we had a good conversation, lots of great things, and that historical knowledge is one of the many assets that Judy brings to our clerk position. But I really wanted to highlight how much I appreciate the proactiveness and the creative problem solving that really helps us get through a lot of the tougher issues. And yeah, thanks so much, Judy, for all that you put into your role with the community.
and Judy, I'm going to submit that that we can talk. We will have further follow-on conversations, just like I said we will with Johnny. And if those conversations result in us creating another resolution to make sure we've done the right thing the right way, we will certainly do that. All right? Thank you very much, everyone. We're now going to vote. All those in favor of approving Resolution 2025-03 as modified, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right. Hearing none, the motion has passed. Thank you for your participation, and Judy, congratulations for your 3.5% increase. Alrighty. I know we have another resolution. Judy, if you could read by title only, Resolution 2025-04.
Is approving the grant of the 365 project in support of Martin Luther King Jr. Day activities.
Can I get a motion in a second, please?
So moved.
Or I'll second.
The folks are excited about this. I like it. So, one of you folks, please go ahead and begin the conversation. Brian?
Sure. Yeah. Well, I'll just say that the Kwanzaa celebration in our village has been a really amazing event. I was not here this year because I was in Tennessee with my parents, but seeing the program and all the great coming together and celebration of those days and principles of Kwanzaa are really important to our village values, and I feel it's one of the signature events that certainly deserves our support.
Okay.
I would add that 365 is an invaluable organization in this village, and one of a kind, at least in Greene and Clark County, I will say. So I appreciate everything that they do for this village, and I would encourage always for everyone to support 365, but especially council and village government.
Thank you for that, Carmen.
Yeah, and I do want to correct myself. I realized we also support the Kwanzaa event, but to me, Martin Luther King Jr. Day is one of my favorite days in the village, and so I'm glad we're supporting that again this year. So they're both awesome.
Yeah, and you're right. And Brian, to your point, 365. I hope my dog barking is not too much of a problem. You're right. 365 is the fiscal agent for both of those activities. I think they take more of a leadership role with the MLK Day celebration than they did with Kwanzaa. But they are certainly critical for all the things that they do, and in particular, given the conversation we're having, with sponsoring, if you will, or co-sponsoring these events. So, Johnny, there was to be a conversation about I guess, identifying the items that the support dollars will go towards. Did that get addressed?
Johnny, if you want me to take it, if you want me to take that, that did occur. They submitted the form that they are supposed to submit. We had a little back and forth to make sure that everything was, in fact, able to be supported by council. And they amended their ask slightly because of that, but yes, it is to support a speaker, and it is to support the technology to live stream the event.
Okay. And that is for $1,000?
Correct.
Correct. Okay. Good. Any other conversations before we vote? All right. All those in favor of approving the request for funding to the 365 project in the amount of $1,000 to support the MLK Day celebration, please indicate by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed, same sign. All right, hearing none, the motion has passed. Thank you very much. We are now at exactly 7 p.m. to the item on the agenda, namely citizen concerns. This is where citizens can come to the mic, as it were, unlike, and talk about anything that you want to talk about. And I see a hand, Rita Hildebrand, for 3 minutes. We don't have our fancy digital timer anymore, so I'm sorry, Judy, I'm going to have to ask you to go back to your old school method of keeping a timer for folks. So again, anything on your heart and mind, and we will recognize Rita Hildebrand. Valia, looks like you're talking, but I can't hear you. Not yet, Rita. I'm still not hearing you. Anybody with admin help her out? Or this is neat. No, this is a.
You may have to turn up your audio, or we're seeing that your mic is open from this end. We're still not getting there.
So Rita.
Can you hear me now?
Okay, now we can.
Okay, is it too loud?
Now,
Okay, thank you. All right, so I wanted to talk about the, from the manager's discussion that's going to happen in a few minutes after this, the report on the option agreement and affordable housing development that Johnny wants to talk about. And I specifically wanted to ask about, because I'm very thankful that the school board and the council put in the promise clause that provided a stipulation that the fields needed to be replaced in kind before the development could go further. And I'm disappointed that we used an appraised value instead of the market value for a for-profit developer, because I think the taxpayers of the village gave up a significant amount of money to do that. And also would have bid on the project with that clause in the contract or in the option. So I wondered, is there a signed legal document that donates land for the fields? Is that in place to your knowledge?
Really, I'm going to ask you just continue with your comments. This is addressed in the village manager. So down the middle, address.
Okay, so I wanted to know if we do have a legal agreement for a donation of land, And also, is there a signed legal document that provides the $550K to build and maintain the fields, plus the cost of the land if we don't have a donation agreement? So I know that at least one of the school board members has mentioned that they think that the cost would be about $300,000 to build and maintain the fields for like the first 3 years. When the seeding, would it take place, the sod would have to, take root. I think Johnny's estimate was much higher. So I was hoping that we could get an answer to, do we have a legal document that donates land? If not, what's the status? What is Johnny's estimate for building and maintaining fields that were put on a cornfield, essentially? And is there a signed legal document that would require WODA to provide the $550,000 and land in kind if we don't have the donation prior to the school board meeting? Because they're being put in a pretty awful situation to try to remove that clause without anything legal in place that would compel WODA to provide what we need for replacement fields. Thank you.
Thank you, Rita. And I appreciate you seeing the manager's report. And so again, as I said, that information will come out and Johnny can share it to the degree that he can with the things that he's responsible for at that time. Anyone else for citizen concerns? Yes, Riley. You're muted currently? Yep, there we go. Oops. Riley, see lips moving, but don't get anything yet.
Hear me now? Can you get me now?
Yep.
Okay. Yeah, I guess I'd like to follow up with a couple other questions related to what Relita asked, anticipating that section of the manager's report also. Yeah, that Woodard Cooper is interested in, I guess, encouraging, or maybe not them encouraging the school board, but that the school board might need to recant their resolution in one way or another. I'm curious if that would have been the case for any other developer that the village might have selected among the four. Is that a legal requirement? Is that a preference from Woodard Cooper specifically? Or is it a requirement by OFA for the applicant to have full site control? I guess I'd be interested in a little more elucidation on that. And yeah, really, I guess I'm interested in what the next steps are. I know there's a school board meeting on Thursday, and I'd be interested to hear the group talk about how the village is volleying the onus to the school board on Thursday, or what council will be tasked with at their the Tuesday meeting after Martin Luther King Day, based on what the school board decides at this coming meeting. And if we, to echo what Relita said, if we can expect a land agreement coming up from one of the property owners adjacent to the school fields. So that's all I have. Just asking for more clarification in the coming section of the meeting. Thanks.
Excellent. Excellent. Thank you, Riley. Are there any other citizen concerns? And I will, we do have special reports in between citizen concerns and manager's report. So there will be a couple of other items before we get to the manager's report. But still in citizen concerns. Any other citizen or non-citizen? What do you say something? And I would just ask you to raise your Zoom hand or turn on your camera and wave violently to indicate. And not seeing anything. So, Rebecca, you what?
Yeah, hi everybody. Real quick, I was looking for my hand raising.
So Rebecca Potter, citizen, and also the vice president of the school board. I just want to also echo the appreciation I have speaking as an individual in this partnership between the schools and the village. I wanted to just share a couple of things that have been coming out in social media to get the right information out there. First of all, it's been about 6-month journey, starting longer than that, but starting on the 21st of May 2024, the school board voted to investigate the proposal of selling 3 acres to the village for the purpose of affordable housing. And in July, and at that time, 3 steps were laid out to make this happen. We had to rezone and subdivide the property. We had to get a lien removed. And then we also needed to find replacement soccer fields. And the commitment for those replacement fields was made in a motion in July and has been reiterated in several times at school board meetings. And it's been great to see the success in getting that lien removed, getting the rezoning done, the subdivision done, and now you're looking at removing that overlay that can make a very important project happen that will bring families to the schools and create the opportunity for those families to attend there. But I just want to also echo the commitment that the school board has had, voting unanimously every time when the issue of replacement fields has come up. And we look forward in working with the village on that issue and to continue to maintain the community's trust going forward. Thank you.
Thank you, Rebecca. Appreciate those points of clarification. Any other citizen concerns before we move on to special reports? I'm intentionally moving slowly here because of the potential delays with technology and folks finding the virtual hand versus the real hand and all of that. But going once, twice, and third, we're now closing citizen concerns, and we're moving on to special reports. The first of which is the end-of-year report for the Public Arts and Culture Commission. That sounds like Carmen or someone?
Yeah, it's a me thing.
Yep.
It's going to be really short and sweet for both of these. So,
Oh, you got EC also, Carmen?
yeah. So
Yeah.
then the line-
Yes.
Yeah, so Public Arts and Culture Commission this year saw year 2 of our Veto Awards, which have been expanded from just design and innovation to kind of individual artistic talents and contributions to the village this year. In November, we saw award recipients Flo Lorenz, Jennifer Furman, and Robert Michelle, among others, receive an award, and the award was created by none other than the incomparable Michael Caselli, who's also on the commission. We saw the resurrection of Women's Voices Out Loud, which will return on March 6th of this year, which is Saturday. I think it's International Women's Day, so look out for that. In October, I do believe, and in November, we welcomed Justin Herman to the Keith's Alley for a 3D projection mapping of the murals. And a lot of people didn't get a chance to make it out there to see it, but it's pretty impressive, and hopefully we'll be welcoming Justin back in the late spring, early summer. We also welcomed Amope Glenn to the Herman Gallery. No, not Amope Glenn, Amope Carter WP, or Mama O, to the Herman Gallery for an Appalachian poetry reading. And so we're going to continue the Appalachian Poetry Reading this year, and also bringing back the AACW-esque Blues Fest. Just looking for a venue for that. So there's the and then on the EC piece, we worked with Central State and Central State students was also in October for honeysuckle removal from Ellis Pond. Worked with Professor Marcus Nagel and 7 students from Central State who want to have a continued presence in town as volunteers for EC, specifically, especially with the gardens coming up this year. That's all I got.
All right, great. Thank you for that. So that is what I'm showing on the agenda for special reports. Council, any comments, additional updates, comments to what Carmen shared? Any additional updates regarding any other commissions that were not briefly discussed? Go ahead, Brian.
No, I was just going to say I've always been impressed with the work that the Public Arts and Culture Commission does to really create vitality in our community, and I think the direction that the Village Inspiration and Design Award, the VITA, has taken is great. I love the last event. Carmen, you and everyone did such a good job. And the Environmental Commission is really excited for 2025, and great group, always talking a lot about how we have a resilient and sustainable community. So I appreciate Carmen's leadership on both those commissions and all the work that the members are doing.
Excellent. Well, thank you for that. Always appreciation goes a long way. I think in every instance. So that is important, and it's good for us to share that when we can. So thank you for that, Brian. And thank you, Carmen. Alrighty, I am literally sitting on the edge of my seat because we're now to the manager's report. So Johnny, I'm going to ask you to take the floor. I took a few notes during public comments or citizen concerns, and so I'm going to ask you to go ahead and feel free to share as you are comfortable with, as far as the contents in your report, and then I will just suggest a tickler, if you would, for some of the things that were asked about. But I suspect your overview would cover all of those.
Okay, thank you, Kevin. First, I want to start off, because I've got some notes to myself, but I want to give a shout out to all the Public Works and PD for all the help today with the snow. It is the biggest one we've had in a while. We've had vehicle breakdowns, but overall, we've got the roads passable, and we'll be cleaning up for the next couple of days. But I wanted to let them know, a big thank you to them for getting it done and getting it done safely. The second page of the manager's report, I want to give it thanks to White's Brewery for supporting the Roundup on their donation for the month of December. It's much appreciated. And then I'll get on to my update of the questions that was just asked of us. We do not have signed documents for land donation as of yet. Amy Blankenship and myself, as of an hour or two ago, we're still trying to set up a meeting with a property owner and the new attorney from that side. So we are still in the process of trying to get signed documents and to make that happen. As far as the WODA agreement, we do not have a signed agreement with WODA yet. They did submit the pre-application. The option to purchase on that is being asked to be removed was brought to us by WODA. It is not a village ask, it's not a WODA ask, it is a, whoever submits an application, it cannot be there because OPA will kick it out. This is a hinge to where they do not see site control. If there's an option that has to be met to be able to gain access to the site control. Andy Blankenship can chime in if I'm not explaining it the right way. So, WODA sent myself a letter. I did call Superintendent Terry Holden, Dr. Holden. I explained to her and passed on the letter from WODA asking for that to be removed so they could have a good application when they submit the application. $40,000 or $50,000 to submit an application that you know is going to get rejected as soon as it gets into the process is not a wise decision on anybody's part. That is the reason why they're trying to get all this information secured prior to submitting the final application and code. We have been working with them. There's still some things that's got to be worked out, but it's all positive. If this is this option agreement can be revisited a different way and to where we can make the successful application, they feel very positive on the process. Kevin, do you know, and soccer fields, unfortunately I was supposed to meet there this morning at 9:30, but when you have 10 inches of snow underground, you can't really see anything anyway. So I have got a call back into Fillmore to see when I can meet on site or when we can sit down and have further conversations. At the same time, I think the schools is trying to redefine what is needed from their end to make this a soccer field that will pass all the tests. So we can't just have generalization, we need to know exactly what we're apples to apples to apples. So I canceled a meeting this morning and hopefully I'll be able to reschedule with Fillmore, but again, I'm still waiting on a little bit of information from the schools as well. And that is, Kevin, do you know, is that all the questions that you had?
Yeah. So what I will say, Johnny, what you definitely touched on that there is no signed agreement with the land donation. That donation would be made to the schools from the owner, not to the village. The replacement, what's being considered as a land gift would be from the land property owners to the schools, not to the village.
Correct.
There are two other questions that Leah asked about whether there was a signed agreement in place. One was what it would take for preparing the donated land for soccer. There's no agreement in place with that. Leah also touched on this gap issue, acknowledging that the land donation would cost $0. If the 3.6 for the building does go through the transfer process, there would be $339,000 that the schools would have at their disposal. Again, they would have free land plus $339,000 to do with what they choose to do.
And Kevin, we did have we had a budget number from contractors. We had an estimate of those budget numbers. So that is the $475,000 that we're just trying to get it redefined. Who knows, it could be more, it could be less. I can't answer that question.
Gotcha. And just to reiterate, there is no agreement about we have a gap. If the disposable free land plus over $250,000 is not enough, there is no agreement about filling any gap, if any gap exists. As Johnny, as you alluded to, it's I don't know whether it's written or not, but it's a common sense application issue that the OFA application expects the applicant, in particular the builder, to have access to the land or own it outright. How that transfer could happen in a simple manner is builder offers to pay the land and have access to it before breaking ground. The way agreements are written now, it is undeterminable for when the builder would have access to the land, but if that contingency requirement is in there, I don't have any reason to think that the school boards would have everything they're looking for by late February when the builder's expected to submit their initial application. I know I may be off on some of the timing there, but I'm trying to answer the question about whose idea. It's not WODA's idea. The application expects you to have full access to the land on which you want to go dig in holes and buildings. It is just that simple. And Johnny, thank you for saying that. It is not the village saying, schools, you got to remove the requirement. It's the builder saying a good application would have us having full control of the land, not contingent on these 2 or 3 things that they have no control of. Having said that, this is a fact. The schools will make a decision, one way or the other. But WODA is saying they will not submit an application if they don't have access to the property. That is plain and simple. It's not a WODA thing, it's not an OFA thing necessarily. It's just, you can't build on someone else's land unless you have access to the land. And I see one comment from Lolita. Again, we don't have control over the cost to repair. We don't know what those real numbers are, so we cannot speak confidently to that. And if all things go well, the schools will have free land and $339,000 to do with it what they wish. What happens next? If the school does approve the change, the document would come back to us for our final approval. Because we haven't seen the document, the agreement, without that requirement on it. So if the school changes it, it will come back to us and we will vote on it at our next official meeting. And I don't mean 2 weeks from now, just whenever our next meeting is. That's been scheduled, and I don't know if we will be forced to try to consider a special meeting. I'm just saying, if the school board changes it, we will have a chance to re-agree with what we've already signed. Johnny, I think that does answer your question. I think you've touched on all the issues. There are some other commentary in the comments. I'm not catching all of it. But suffice it to say, everyone who's listening, what we have shared are the facts as we have them today. If there's something that's missing, it's because we don't know the answer to the question. And Rebecca, I appreciate Rebecca Potter, thanks for coming on. And to provide whatever clarity you did, but for the good of the cause, for everyone that's listening and not listening, it is not the village asking the schools to make this change. It is us advising the village that the application will not be submitted without without legal access to the land by the builder. So they need to have access before they submit the application.
Kevin, there's someone who'd like to speak.
No, we do not respond to the chat. That is, I was gonna say, please don't comment on things that are in chat. We're done. Citizen comment.
Gotcha. You're right. We're all good.
There's a citizen that would like to speak, to take her time. They're listed as MK. They didn't raise their hand.
I thought that was Matt Rasmussen.
Well, we're out of citizen concerns.
Yeah, we're in, this is the village manager's report. Johnny, you have a great deal of responsibility, and it goes far beyond buildings and soccer. Anything else in your,
Yes.
So, I have a question about this, but I'm happy to bring it up
Go
later.
ahead.
go ahead.
Okay. So, so what they ultimately want is for the contingency to be satisfied, right? Meaning like either it's removed so that they have a clear path to site control, or that it's done, meaning that we had, an agreement that there was, a solution that could meet the contingency. Either would be acceptable, right?
That is correct.
I think ultimately they're going to want that option. WODA is going to ask that option agreement be amended, even if the option agreement is amended because the contingency has been satisfied. The option agreement, that second contingency coming out of the option agreement will make the site control, the path to site control much cleaner from OFA's perspective.
Okay, but if we were able to, and there's not anyone who has advocated for removal of the contingency without addressing the soccer fields, right? Johnny, is that your understanding? Everyone's trying to figure out all of it, right?
Correct, absolutely.
Okay, I just think because when WODA said, in the manager's report and then the stuff that was shared on, I think it got people thinking that, they're just trying to take this out because they don't want to do the soccer fields. So I just want to make sure we're clear that everybody's still trying to figure out the soccer fields. I understand that doesn't allay all the concerns, but the dynamic of what we're trying to figure out is getting the soccer fields addressed.
That's correct.
And that includes the steps that you mentioned of figuring out the land donation and then figuring out the cost of replacement. Johnny, can you say anything more about the timeline as you see it? Because I know that the 27th is the deadline for the application. Has WODA said anything, or do we have any information about by when this would need, do they need this to be clarified before they would apply, or anything about that?
They did say that they would like to have an answer from the school by Friday morning, if it can be done. And then we still have got to do the development agreement with them, but they did submit the pre-application, and this would allow them to invest their money that they have to make a final application in February. Is that correct, Amy? So Gavin, I'm sorry, I missed the last meeting. Amy
You're shaking your head in the affirmative.
Pardon?
I'm telling everyone.
Yes, sorry, Kevin, yes. Johnny, that's correct. That's my understanding as well.
And Meg just jumped on so she can allude to, I did miss the last meeting. There was a short one, but I was in another one. I did get out fast enough. Meg, did I miss anything on that?
No, just that the pre-application has been submitted, so that's a good first step. There was a lot of focus in the last week or two on refining that pre-application submittal, which focused a lot on who our partners were going to be with the submittal. Not as much like what the development's going to look like. That would be what they prepare next in the development agreement. The pre-application step is a little bit more just like, we're interested and this is who's going to be submitting and these are each person's role in that submittal. And so in February, I think February 27th, they, in gearing up for February 27th submittal, they're going to be putting a lot of time and money into it, and so they need to ensure that they have the site control as soon as possible so they can prepare the actual application. That's a lot more time intensive. And so that's why there's an expedited time frame to try to get it from the school board to remove it, or at least have some kind of amendment that says that it's been addressed. So that's what we're working towards.
Do we have any, because I could certainly imagine that the school board would be in a tough position if they're being asked by this Friday to decide, hey, will you take out this thing, but we don't have the land donation or the, clarity on what the cost for replacement would be. Is there, that would be the ideal situation, right? Is to be able to say, hey, here's clarity on that. I guess if that's on Friday, it seems unlikely that'll happen at this point. Is there anything else that's been done, or that we should talk about that would help to give the school board any more clarity of that request?
Other than Amy Blankenship and myself is meeting with the landowner and their attorney, so we don't know which way that's going. But we have been in active conversations along with Dr. Holden as well, working with trying to finalize this. There's a lot of moving pieces to this big puzzle. And in no way is the village trying to take out a clause to where there ain't soccer fields being thought of. It seems to me what we're doing the most of right now is trying to figure out soccer fields and light tech. So everybody's got my words. I am not trying to take this out to where, oh, we got you. We are trying to keep moving a project forward and working the land at the same time and trying to make everybody happy, which seems to be a problem when you're trying to do it all together.
And let me throw this in. There is a great deal of interest and a great deal of passion. Happy New Year, everyone, by the way. I wanted to say something pleasant before I say something less pleasant. It is a fact that too much external influence has jeopardized some portion of this project at various points. There is a great deal of trust that we're expecting. What I mean by that is, I've seen comments about bait and switch. We want to take the money and run. That property in question, the village doesn't want it for any other reason than to ensure that it is free and clear. And we have, to Rebecca's point, done a great deal of work in removing, some of the legal entanglements, removing lien, rezoning, and other things to keep this process going. So, there's nothing nefarious happening here. It is just a simple matter. If you would not, none of us, builder or otherwise, would ask the state to give us that $15 million that you want me to build on some land that I don't have yet. And we're just simply saying, the builder saying, don't put us in a position where you expect us to make that application without access to the land. Go ahead, Brian.
Yeah, I just wanted to briefly comment. First of all, thanking our village team, council and staff, as well as the school board team working on resolving these issues. And I know that, basically the summary of this discussion is everyone's working really hard to finalize the land donation and get a solid, as Johnny said, apples to apples number on preparing the fields. I see those commitments, and we're hoping to get it resolved by this Thursday's school board meeting.
for soccer fields, we're not talking about land purchase for soccer fields. So let's take that into consideration. The person that we're talking with is talking about donating the land to make this happen. So we have been dotting our I's and crossing our T's every step of the way to try to make this happen. So, with that being said, King Street
So,
and...
hey, Johnny?
Yes, sir.
Sorry, I just want to say one more thing on this. Thank you very much to the potential landowner, and thanks to everybody who's working on it. It feels like we're kind of right at the end of the line here on the timeline. So I just want to make sure that that I've been clear at least about my perspective on it. So my hope is that that we stay focused on the sort of ultimate goal of trying to figure out how do we get more affordable housing in the village, and that the sort of opportunity or the sort of potential return on investment here is just really, really significant, and that the gap that has been identified, or that there's been a question around between the potential the $339,000 and then whatever else would be required, if anything more is required, is essentially relatively small. And so that I'll just say, as I've said before, I just want to make sure that it's clear, I would certainly be supportive of us trying to figure out how do we help to close a gap if one exists. And it seems like we're not entirely clear because we need to figure out the apples to apples bidding. But I'm just trying to, at least as one person, to send as much of a signal as possible to the school board and to the community that says that this allows us to make headway on a significant priority for many, many years, and that the relative, sort of the amount of a gap that we've been talking about is very small in the scheme of things compared to the level of investment. So just to add that 2 cents in.
Okay, I'll pick up where I left off. Choice one did get the study done on Dayton Street and King Street, and the only thing that they are recommending is to restrict parking within 220 feet east and 190 feet west of the intersection would be the only thing that they would recommend if the problem persists. So that was good to know. Good news on that end. Tecumseh Land Trust did the 3 inspections. They did not find anything. They had a hammock down here at the Yellow Springs easement that they spoke about. And then they made mention of some glass farm habitat restoration area on the south end of the pond, and how they keep the ducks there. So that's good to know. January 8th, Yellow Springs, I volunteered to host the mayors and managers meeting for the greater Dayton area. So we'll be having a lot of managers from the greater Dayton area coming. We have Veteran as one of the speakers, and the village staff is going to give like a 10-minute presentation. On top of Cresco is going to come in and talk about medical versus recreational marijuana. So it is a privilege to host them. We are doing so at the Mills Park Hotel. All we had to do is secure the space, and Greater Dayton organization took over. So Jay is contacting the hotel. So milestone for us for 25 starting out of the gate. So the plan of economic development pre-application was submitted. I said that one earlier. We had 15 permits pulled in December, which was a slow month, but we were still pretty busy trying to take off and get other things done. Meg will be attending the Miami Valley Regional MVRPC on January 16th to I think it's on the Water and Environmental Subcommittee. Secret Santa for the utility bill. We want to say thank you to them for helping out for some utility funds for the holidays. Whoever Secret Santa is, thank you very much. We had a computer go out at the water treatment plant. We replaced it. I got the SCADA system back up and running. It's just an old computer that went out, and we was able to get it new in there and get it up and running. We should have final numbers here in the next week or so on December numbers, so we'll be able to finish filling out that water plant billing water loss chart. Brian, that's one of the ones that you like to see on there. 4.79 inches of rain in November, and December wasn't bad, but January would be a good one for the snow. So we have basically shut down the water treatment plant. We're just maintaining over the winter and switching into the other processes. Cold weather brings other things that we don't like to mention, but you'll see the pictures there. So we just won't mention the names, but the guys are able to get that one repaired on Rice Road. And they are still actively working on finding some curb stops, a little bit delayed now, but for changing the meters out. We have, I think they're right at maybe 100 meters left to change out. So they'll be finding those and getting those changed out. The electric crew has been helping with the school. They got the wire pulled, they got terminations, they're ready to heat up. So we're waiting on the school electricians to get some other things ready for the trailer so that they can change some students over. I think in February is the date that the school is changing, and high school is one of the modules. They have started the center circuit going down Kenneth Hamilton, setting a three-phase pole. So we have started that. We're actually working on a right-of-way for the easement language for the third circuit, or the center circuit coming out of the back of the switch station. So Choice 1 is drawing that up as well. So you should see some different things happening in that area. They are also changing out the AT&T poles. The weather has slowed down just a little bit, but still making progress. And let's see. We had a couple of roof leaks appear on the John Bryant roof. They have been repaired. Looks like some kind of burnt ashes that burned on top of the roof, probably from a bonfire or something like that. So the crews got up there, and then we told a warranty roofer to come in and make some repairs. They did apply about 500 gallons of brine in the month of December, trying to treat the roads versus just throwing down the salt. Where brine don't work when there's snow laying on the ground, so now we'll switch to salt. We are getting an order tomorrow of 200 tons. So we should be able to maintain, we've got 300 orders, but we'll bring the 200 in because we're probably dropping 60 ton a day. So we did that at the end of the day, and we'll be back at it tomorrow and the following day. Samantha was on vacation, but Amani did a fantastic job on the youth center update. We got some pictures in there of the holiday party that they had. They had a wonderful time. There's some thank yous in there for people that helped out, Bentino, the Roosters, Miss Florence, the Grinch, the Elf. So really it takes a village to make it happen, and we have an ultimate volunteering staff to help out with the kids, making things happen. The Giving Tree was a success again this year. So thank you to all of them that helped out there. Civic Plus, again, if you don't have it, your neighbor don't have it, I don't know how to get people to do it. We only got 418 signed up. I know we have more than that in the village. So please sign up. You'll see that we've asked you to try to get a lot of the cars off the roadway prior to Sunday night. But if they're there now, they're probably stuck for a while. unless you really show a lot of love. So, working with Ben on doing some other things for the website and getting the goals in place and moving forward. That's what I have, Kevin. Oh, I will say that Allison did a report on economic development, and I am working with her to try to set up another meeting to go on further with the discussion with her.
Good, thank you. Do you know whether, Jenny, would you know whether Allison is reaching out to members of the council by any chance?
That I do not know.
Her letter indicates that she's planning to reach out to each of us individually.
Okay.
Well, she reached out to me, and I just wanted to know, make sure that it wasn't universal.
Yes.
She's reached out to me already.
So Johnny, I've written down some notes. It's really geeky stuff, but I'm gonna ask a couple of them. It's like a manager report. So, choice one made the recommendation. This was that intersection, what we had concerned about parking, and they made a recommendation to make parking, 190 feet from the intersection, in another case, 220. Is that a standard, or was that just the right thing for this circumstance?
Just the right for that intersection, line of sight.
All right, good. The overhead versus underground utility, are you gonna get to everybody, first of all? And secondly, can we volunteer to be early?
Okay, so are you talking about the conversion?
Yeah.
So we're going to be bringing that forward. If you have overhead electric now and you wish to switch to underground, we get a better price on bulk quantity of wire. So we're willing to sell it to the homeowner or to the contractor that is doing the work at the cost of the village pays. No markup. We'll cut it off. We'll bring it out there. Your electrician puts it in the ground. This is not for new builds and new wiring. This is only to remove your overhead to underground at your cost. We're just opening out with the cost of the wire.
Okay, good to know. I'm intrigued. This is the real geeky one. There was a problem with a computer hardware crash.
Yes.
And you did something to avoid that or minimize the impact of it?
Yes.
Is that going to be a sustainable solution?
Yes.
Okay. No need to go any further. I'm good with that. This other one, I want you to, the water loss percentage, are we making progress on that?
Tremendous progress.
Okay.
Yes. We've probably found about 20 million gallons worth in the last 2.5 years.
Good, yeah. 'Cause, I mean, I haven't really paid attention to those numbers in detail, but I did this time, and just thank you for the progress. And I will talk to you privately. It's about, I've mentioned it once before, something I'd like to maybe see in the next Grapevine newsletter.
Yes.
The person featured there.
Yes.
I think that's all I have. Council, colleagues, yes, Brian.
Just two quick things. On water loss, yeah, it was really nice to see that we've kept those reduction percentages down, and I think, yeah, definitely when I look at the overall average for 2024, it's significant. And I also wanted to appreciate the new and improved format for the manager's report. It looks great.
Brian, I wanted to say that. But go ahead.
You passed the mic to me.
You're right, I did. That was my first note. It says new look.
Yeah, it's very well organized. I know it's a team effort, and you guys have been working on this, and yeah, it's really great. Yeah, and then I wanted to just mention to anyone listening, because I heard that there might be some sound issues with the meeting on YouTube. Ben Gunther, who is our media guy, is going to look at that. And so if there were problems on the front end during the live stream, we'll work to make sure that the sound quality is good for after. So just to acknowledge that.
Thanks, Brian.
So,
Yeah, I was like wide-eyed impressed when I saw the new format. So that's great. Thank you, Johnny. Go ahead, Gavin.
I just, I wanted to just check in about the economic development hiring piece. I don't know, I can't remember if you said anything about it, Johnny, today, but it was in the report, and we've obviously communicated about it previously. So do you want to say anything more about that, or anything about sort of how we're thinking about economic development going forward?
We are right now in the process of collecting applications. This is a dual position, so they will be helping Meg in the zoning area, as well as going to meetings and trying to get the Yellow Springs name out there and trying to get economic development coming into the village, small businesses, large businesses, and then working with myself and Meg to try to make sure that the businesses that we have in town are still on board to stay in town. If they need help in any way, what we're doing, what we're not doing right, what we can do to improve. So that is where we are heading with, and we are also working with the YSDC and continuing to work there to try to make things happen.
Okay, so we had previously talked about putting $40,000 to YSDC. Is that no longer happening?
The YSDC returned the $40,000 that we gave them last year, but we did put $40,000 back into a fund to be able to make things happen, whether it be kind of incentives, or we needed to do some things to be able to make things happen, or to get marketing out there for the village.
So you're saying we did that at the village?
Yes.
Okay, how that was decided at YSDC, or when did we talk about that?
That was in the budget workshop.
Okay,
Brian
so you're
put that back in there.
okay, got it. So the hiring is part of the line item from the sort of initial proposal, and then the piece that you're talking about is the piece that was added from Brian's recommendations. Do I understand that correctly?
Yes.
Okay. My hope is that we find some more time to talk about economic development. Based on my conversations with folks, it sounds like there's been, a bunch of different conversations at YSDC that we haven't, we don't know all about it, obviously, if we're not on the committee. So it's an item that I'm hoping that we can spend some more time on in the future. When we brought this up in the budget, there was additional money going in. We didn't talk about it very much, and I assumed that we would talk about it again later, because we had, always assumed that if there were going to be larger expenses that we would bring them back. I didn't know that there was a economic development position that was already on our chart of, employees or whatever. So I was surprised to see it when I saw it on Facebook that it was going to be an application. I think in particular just because I had been part of the housing committee, we had talked about hiring to bring on more expertise and specific knowledge and work around housing issues. And so when I brought it up in the budget, I was under the impression it was going to be something that might be a combined thing. It sounds like there's a certain degree of it that's supporting the work that's happening, by Meg currently. So anyway, just noting that I would like to, I'm hoping we can spend some more time talking about what our economic development sort of approaches and strategies are as a village. To my knowledge, we don't have a, sort of a current operating procedure, so I'm hoping that we're sort of a strategy. So I'm hoping that we can do that.
Good.
And I do want to add that I thought we had talked about it in a meeting or two, but my understanding is that this new position allows Meg to have more time to focus on housing, because that is a piece that's very important to me, and I think all of us as well. So.
Yeah, I remember discussing it in a few meetings ago, probably August, September, and October, I think. And as far as more conversation about economic development, is this going to be, work session stuff, or additional council meeting stuff, or meetings between specific council members who might need this extra information and village manager, or how would you see that playing out, Gavin?
I guess I didn't have a specific plan yet, so I'll think about it, Carmen, and can bring it back up. I guess, I knew that we had talked about the YCC stuff in, that sounds about right, August or September, and then at the budget, we had talked about the, we knew that there was an additional expense, because it was one of the only items where there was any increase in the budget. But it was very brief, and I expected we would talk more about sort of what our, sort of method or role or how we think about this. And it seems like when it comes to some of the different pieces that have been brought up around tips, for example, around, how we put together incentive packages. I know there's been some discussion about that at YCC, but I think there's going to be an appropriate role for council to have an understanding and make make some determinations about how to do that. So, it could be any of the pieces above, Carmen. I think that's just, because I didn't know that we would be hiring for that role. I thought if anything we were hiring for, somebody to help out with housing. And so I understand how these things are interrelated, but now I'm just sort of bringing it up to say, hey, I'd like to figure out where it makes sense to talk about some more. I can think about that and bring it back up.
All right, great discussion. Excuse me. So John, I really appreciate everything that's been said about economic development. So I think economic development, I'm reminded of our strategic planning. These things, however, can take a little time to get legs and get going. I will submit that economic development in terms of bringing new business in is good, but also I think maintaining and sustaining the existing businesses is a big deal. So I really hope that however we go about this, where Nirvana is strategic plan, it's all tight and flashy and shiny, that's down the road. I don't know how far, but that's down the road. Right now, I really would like to know that we have a consistent outreach to the existing businesses, because business growth is also a type of economic development. And Johnny, I sent you a couple of texts recently. I just want to make sure that we not only keep everybody that we have, that we bring in new businesses, and if we have anything to do to keep anybody from leaving, we need to know about that yesterday. Yes. All right. Anything else? Any other questions of Johnny regarding the manager's report? All right. If you'll notice, there's no old business. There's no new business. So we are down.
There is new business.
I'm sorry, thank you. Woody, I was going to ask you to remind me about that, so I didn't do what I just did. I wrote that note too. I guess I need to stop writing notes because I'm not reading. But yes, so we have new business, and I can't even tell you where I wrote that note, but we do have it. So,
yeah. So maybe I'll kick it off, and then Carmen, pass it to you. So we have a great candidate for the Environmental Commission, Ian Chavez, and we had a great discussion. I know council has seen his resume. He comes in with an environmental risk mitigation background and has worked with all kinds of state agencies, OEPA, OSHA, the School Facilities Committee. So he's got a very broad knowledge around that and is very excited to join the Environmental Commission. Carmen?
Yeah, Environmental 1 and 2s. Had the opportunity to speak with them this afternoon. Pretty impressive resume, and approaching, becoming a member of the Environmental Commission with that previous knowledge, that previous consulting experience, and also looking at development from a larger lens, environmental and sustainability lens, which is really, really impressive and something that I look forward to hearing more about. So we're gonna nominate him for an alternate?
Yeah, so it sounds like Carmen made a motion to nominate Ian for an alternate position, which we have open, and I'll second that.
And I'll just add from a commentary perspective, just in my initial glance at Mr. Chavez's resume, yeah, it's got environmental commission written all over it. So I think he has a great breadth and depth of experience that I think would benefit the village greatly. So I'm definitely all in favor. Thank you for bringing the candidate forward.
All right, aye. Is that an all in favor call?
Thank you, yes. I support, yes. So all those in favor, please indicate by saying aye. Aye. Any opposed? All right, hearing none, the motion is passed. Ian Chavez is an alternate on the Environmental Commission. All right, excellent work, everyone. Now, future agenda items.
It's pretty well laid out for you. I am going to add a resolution for approving the MVRPC dues. The next agenda.
Good. Have they sent an invoice?
Yep, we got it.
Yeah, we can go. Good.
Any other, so this is our first meeting. Right, yeah, so we'll have, if you have any commission updates, please make sure you get those written reports in as soon as possible. Johnny and Trish, if this new library commission schedule is a little weird, but I think we're scheduled to meet tomorrow.
You're scheduled to...
Wednesday.
Yeah, 5:30.
That's why it's bad for me. Yeah, I know Trish expressed some concerns from a scheduling perspective. I don't know yet if I can make it.
So are we doing future agenda items, or do you guys need to do this offline?
That's a future agenda item, sort of? No, we're good. Yeah, any other future agenda item?
Well, it seems like we would do a LIHTC update, right?
I think that's, yes, 100%, Gavin, because if the school board takes certain action this week, then we'll have an action item at our next meeting. So Judy, if we could either, I think maybe either update some sort of LIHTC placeholder, and over the next few days, we can, that will mature to what it ought to look like. Thanks, Gavin, for that. All right. Anyone else? I'm not trying to end the meeting early. Just want to make sure everybody gets it all out. This will be a great year this year, folks, because we have a great team. We live in a great community. We all want to do the right thing, and we will. And it really does take a village. And I really hope we maintain that focus and remember that we are all in this thing together. There really is, regardless of what the world tries to make us start thinking, there is no us versus them. There's not enough people in this village to fill out an us team and still have a them team. So we may as well just keep this thing together, and ultimately, regardless of, thank you, Riley, for acknowledging that, we really do want to do what's in the best interest of the village. We don't always know exactly what the masses want from a head count perspective, but we are going to endeavor to know that we have our finger on the pulse of the community, and I'm asking community members, if a survey or something like that crosses your desk, where the village is trying to get your thoughts about how we can serve you better, please respond. We will be continuing those outreaches. We will have a newsletter coming out in the next few weeks. So we are trying to do better, and we're trying to do good. And no one is out to get anybody. So let's just focus on that. There shouldn't be enough energy to be pointing fingers at people. But put your hand on somebody's shoulder and give them a word of encouragement instead of pointing at them and saying things that are probably not true. All right, that's all I have. Is there anything else for the good of the order? I will thank everyone on this call for being flexible, given the weather situation and our need to switch to virtual instead of in-person. Thank you for those who have facilitated the meeting. Julie, I see you're in your office. Thank you for being on point, on the ground. Ben and everyone else that has done that, Johnny, your entire team. Thank you for everyone. I look forward to seeing all of your faces in real time, real live someday. All right, bless you. Anything else before we go? Not seeing any activity? The chair will accept a motion to adjourn.
So, second.
All right, all those in favor, people say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Take care. Bless you all. Be well.